Is your dream photo a grizzly bear at dawn, or maybe a black bear on the side of a mountain eating berries? Either way, we're talking about bears today. I'm in the beautiful Grand Teton National Park. Today we're going to talk about bear safety. We're going to go over shooting techniques for getting quality bear photos. We're going to go over the different seasons and where the bears live during those seasons. That way you know where to look when you come to a national park, whether it be Yellowstone or Glacier National Park. All of these parks have bears, and they all typically inhabit the same type of area during the same time of year. And after we're done with that, we're going to go over some editing tips, so hang in there till the end. I use Lightroom, and I'll give you some tips for editing bear photos. I had to go get my jacket because it's still kind of chilly. The first thing we're going to talk about is bear safety. The number one thing you need to always have on you is bear spray. I know you typically probably don't need it most of the time, but better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So make sure you got your bear spray. You can typically find it at most local hardware stores, or even gas stations around here have them. I think they're about 50 bucks, and it doesn't really go bad, so I would just keep one in the van. The next important thing you need to know is if you're out walking around or hiking in a place where there are bears, you need to keep in mind the wind direction, especially if you're on uneven terrain or high willows or wooded areas. The wind direction is very important for bear safety, because if the wind is in your face and you're walking up over a hill, the bear cannot smell you, so you're going to surprise him. You might walk over the hill, the bear is on the other side. Typically, if the wind is at your back, the bear will smell you before you see the bear, and they oftentimes will move along before you even get close to them. So always keep in mind the wind direction, like I said, especially if you're in an area with limited sight, because you could very easily sneak up on a bear, which photographing, we want to be close to them, but not that close, and you definitely don't want to surprise them, because oftentimes when you surprise them, they will react in some sort of way, and that could be dangerous. The next important thing we're going to talk about is if the bear has cubs. They typically keep their cubs for 2 or 3 years. I'm not a bear expert, so I don't know the exact length of time that they keep the cubs, but if they have cubs, you definitely do not want to get anywhere near them, because they will defend the cubs. Cubs are playful and they might come running towards you, but this could be a dangerous situation because the mother will protect the cub from you, even if you're not doing anything wrong. So you need to keep in mind, if they have cubs, you need to stay further away. The National Park Service says you need to be 100 yards, which is 300 feet, but oftentimes if they have cubs, especially if the cubs are away from the mom, and you get somewhere near the cub, you could be in a very dangerous situation. The other really important thing you want to keep in mind is if you find some kind of carcass, or if there's some kind of carcass in the area that the bears are feeding on, you definitely do not want to get anywhere near that, because the bears will protect their food. If they think you are some sort of threat to their food, they will attack you. A carcass or cubs, you need extra distance away from those animals to ensure that you don't get attacked in a defense mechanism by the bear. If you're visiting bear country in the spring or the fall, that the bears hibernate in the winter time, so they are typically hungrier in the spring because they just woke up, and in the fall they are actively hunting more often or feeding, trying to store fat for the winter. So just keep that in mind as well. The bears might be a little bit more aggressive in the spring or the fall. And lastly, springtime is mating season. So if there's a male and a female, or a boar and a sow, and the boar is trying to mate with the sow, if you get anywhere near the sow, he possibly could become defensive against you, and that would turn into a bad situation. If you're hiking around and you happen to see a bear when you're hiking around, just always keep your distance from the bear, and if it makes any sort of aggressive behavior towards you, if the bear is standing up repeatedly looking in your direction, or even advancing towards you, if you get too close, they'll charge you. In any of these circumstances, you need to move away from that animal and get far enough away that is a safe distance before you even begin to take a photo. If you're going to use the drive around and look for bears method in a national park, that's perfectly fine, and it's common practice actually. Just remember, if you find a bear and it's close to the road, you need to shoot from inside your vehicle without getting out, or if you decide to get out, keep a safe distance and always have in mind some sort of exit strategy. A place where you can go if the bear starts to move towards you, or a vehicle you can get inside of. That way, if the bear starts to advance in your direction, you can move quickly out of the bear's way. If you're visiting one of the national parks in the springtime looking for bears, a great place to look for them is the wildflower fields that grow in the valleys. Bears often eat the wildflowers, so that's a great place to look for them. The springtime is also mating season, so you can get some male bears in the valley with the females. This is a great opportunity to get male bears because most of the time they're up in the mountains. They only come down to mate. The females will stay in the valley when they have cubs to protect the cubs from the males. Unfortunately, the males will oftentimes kill the cubs because, especially if it's a male cub, it is competition to the male bear. So that being said, the females typically stay in the valley, sometimes often close to the roads or places where people frequent, to protect the cubs from the male bears. This often raises a problem for the bears themselves. If they get too close to an area where people are populating, then the rangers will haze them off or scare them off to kind of protect the bears and the people at the same time. So if you're visiting in the spring, the valleys, the flat areas with willows and wildflowers are a great place to look for bears. The springtime is also calving season for bison and elk. So oftentimes the bears will hang out in areas where there is elk herds or bison herds in order to hunt the calves or search for the calves. The elk calves will often hide while the mother is feeding. So the grizzly bears or the bears will take advantage of this situation and they'll look for the calves while the elk herd is separated from the calf. Looking for areas with elk and bison is a great place to look for bears as well. If you're going to use the method of looking for an elk herd or a bison herd to find a bear, notice how all of these elk are very alert. Their ears are up. They're not feeding. They're not grazing normally because there is a bear right here. The elk are worried about the bear. They're alerted to his position. So if the elk are just grazing normally and they don't seem like they're acting erratic or lifting their heads and listening or all looking in one direction, you can probably just assume there's no bear there and move along. Another great way to locate bears when you come to a national park is to ask the visitor center if they have had any bears frequenting certain areas, or ask the park ranger, or even if you see someone with a big camera, they typically know where the bears have been frequenting, and they'll oftentimes give you a hint or tell you exactly where the bears have been and exactly what time they've been there. Another great place to look for bears is along rivers, like this one behind me. Bears will often come down to the river to eat fish or hunt fish, especially if you're in Alaska where there's salmon. Here there's not really as many fish the bear could catch, but they often like to come down to the water even just to take a swim or go for a dip. So looking along rivers or along river bottoms is a great place to look for bears. As far as photographing bears go, you want to try to position yourself in front of the bear at a safe distance. If the bear is moving in your general direction, get a little further away so that the bear can advance towards you some. It'll give you some time to take the photos of the bear while he's facing towards you. Nobody likes bear butts or pictures of bear butts, so you want to wait for the moments in between grazing when they lift their head up and they're chewing their food, or even the special moments where they stand up or chasing a calf or something like that would be an extraordinary photo. But if you're behind them, you're not going to be able to get that shot. Always want to be in front of them in the general direction they're moving towards at a safe distance. This will give you the time required to shoot plenty of pictures of the bear's face. I often shoot on high speed so that you can get the little moments in between, like when they have flowers falling out of their mouth or something like that is what's going to set your photo apart from other people's bear photos. This would be a good indication that a bear lives here. This tree is rubbed clean. You can see where the grass is disturbed. So obviously it's a good rubbing tree. This is a black bear scat and it looks pretty fresh. So you know what it looks like if you see it. This is also black bear scat, and these are the wildflowers I was talking about they like to eat. So obviously there's a bear that frequents this area, and I need to be very careful walking around here because I might run into him. I really prefer shooting in the morning hours. I like the morning light better, but not everybody wakes up early, so oftentimes the afternoon is a great option for shooting bears as well. Make sure you keep your shutter speed up a little bit higher than you normally would, even if the bear is moving slowly. Because like I said, if they do something extra special like stand up, you don't want to miss that photo because that's the one you really want. As far as equipment for shooting bears, typically a longer lens is better, or a longer zoom lens. So like I have a 600 prime that I use to shoot. That way I can keep a safe distance but still get sharp photos of the bear's face. If you're shooting with a smaller lens, it's a little bit harder to keep a safe distance and get good photos of a bear unless you're taking landscape photos with the bear in it. Then that's achievable with a smaller focal length. Really, if you're coming to shoot wildlife at a national park, it's probably a good investment to invest in renting a lens to be able to get the photos that you want. Here's some video clips I shot my first week here in the Tetons. After that, we're going to dive into editing a photo, and I'll give you some tips in Lightroom for that. This is the photo I'm going to edit for you guys. I wanted to show you I wasn't full of it about the wildflowers. This bear was actually on the side of the road eating wildflowers, and I was able to get some really good photos of them. The first thing we're going to do to the whole entire photo is increase the exposure a little bit because it's a little too dark. Then we're going to add some vibrance because we don't have that option on the masking tool. The first mask we're going to use, we're going to select the subject, which will pick the whole entire bear. The only thing we're going to do to the whole entire bear is increase the shadows a little bit to kind of bring his hair up some. Then we're going to select the brush tool. Once we have the area around the bear highlighted, we're going to decrease the exposure a little bit to kind of darken that up. Also decrease the highlights a little bit. Again, we're going to select the brush tool and we're going to highlight the bear's face. All we're going to do with this masking tool of the bear's face is add some clarity. You always want the face to be the clearest part of the photo. And that's all I'm going to do with it. I really like it. I think it's cool with the wildflowers in his mouth. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something about bear photography. If you have any questions or comments, please leave me a comment below. Next week, I'm going to be making a video about how to make cinematic slow motion video in camera, or shoot cinematic slow motion video in camera, which is what I really like doing with wildlife. It transfers over to every other aspect of photography. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you get a notification when that video comes out. If you like this video and you want to check out another one, I did one last week where I did a deeper dive into approaching large wildlife and safety tips or precautions you need to take while photographing them. I'll attach it right here, and I'll see you over there.